Time to upgrade your chassis, but you're not sure if you should go with something that's a little larger like this, or if you can go with a lighter setup like this chassis here. Well, in this video, let's go over the pros and the cons to each one of these chassis and the different profile sizes that are built with them, so that you guys understand why you would want to go with one over the other or vice versa. All right, guys, let's get right into it. This chassis right here off to my right is the one that we use when we build our Pro Turnkey simulators. Just off by looking at it, you can see that it has much larger profile all around. Every single piece of this chassis right here is built to be more rigid, it's much more stout, and it's able to take a bit more of a beating. You can put higher direct drive bases, higher Newton meters on it, the thing's not gonna flex. You're able to put hydraulic pedals on it, the thing's not gonna flex the pedal plate. This chassis that has just a much larger profile is really able to handle the high-end equipment. Then that brings us to the other one over here. This is how we build our light turnkey cockpits. We use the lighter profile on this one. Now, this one has, it doesn't have quite as large of extrusion. This is 40/80 at the largest. This one is 40/160 at its largest. That's in millimeters, and that just goes basically off of the size of the profile. So 80 millimeter profile on this one, and simply it's just not as stout. This chassis off here to my left, it's really made for children or people that aren't going to be putting high-end equipment on the simulator. Now, the pedal plate down here, down below, this can't quite handle hydraulic pedals like this really stout pedal plate can. This can handle more of like your load cell pedals or the more basic potentiometer pedals. That's what this one is made for. The spot where we would be putting our direct drive bass, although it can still handle a beautiful bass, it just can't handle the higher powered ones, like the Pro SimiCube or the Ultimate SimiCube. You throw one of those on this chassis and you're actually going to feel the chassis wobble a little bit. It's going to have a little bit of flex to it. It's not going to be nearly as rigid as this one right here. So with that said, why would you choose this one over that one? Well, the answer is simple. If you aren't going to be going with any high-end equipment, hydraulic pedals, high-end direct drive bass, maybe you're only doing belt-driven basses, then there's almost no reason to spend the extra money on this chassis. Now, if there's even an inkling of you thinking that you're gonna go hydraulic pedals, a really high-end direct drive bass, something that has much more power, then that's when you need to look into just the thicker chassis. Now, this chassis right here is going to be the last chassis that you'll buy. Extrusion is awesome. This is so beautiful. We do not build our turnkey cockpits with anything but the extrusion chassis. And there's really a couple reasons for that. These things, like I said, very stout, easy to build. Number two, they're incredibly modular. So as time goes on and you want to add things to your chassis, you want to put button boxes on it, you want to put different lights on it, you want to put just different accessories on it. These things are so easy to build off of. Every single one of these channels that you see when you're looking at the extrusion can have a T-nut slotted into it, and then essentially you just bolt anything down to it. It's so easy to build these things to be exactly the way that you want as a driver. So when you're looking at a chassis, I know that there's so many options out there on the market. I really recommend that you go with an extrusion chassis just like this. Now, some people complain about the way that they look because they're very squared, they're very boxy. But the truth is they just perform so much better than anything that we have out there on the market currently. Now that might change in a couple of years, but what we have right now, the extrusion is just the best option. Now, this chassis right here is still a great chassis. This is not meant to talk down the light profile chassis. This is still gonna be beautiful and it's gonna work great for a lot of different drivers. The thing is though, is if you already know in your head that you're gonna go and you're gonna end up upgrading to the hydraulic pedals, you're gonna go and you're gonna upgrade to a really high-end direct drive bass, then for the couple $100 more, you might as well go with this one because it's gonna last you so much longer. You know that when you buy a chassis that's stout, just like the one that's sitting right here, you're not gonna have to change it out. You're not gonna have to upgrade the chassis anymore ever again. This thing is gonna last. You know, as you start to put more stuff on the chassis, it's gonna be able to handle it. You're not going to run into a situation where, you know, you throw a set of pedals on this and then it's flexing, it's moving around, where truly you could run into that with this profile chassis right here, okay? So the two simulators that I have right behind me, we do have a light over here and we have the Pro right here. And right now, I actually wanna take you guys and I wanna show you guys with them totally built out, how you can actually see some of the differences in the way that they perform. Hey guys, it's Lawrence. I'm taking a quick break from this video to tell you guys that if you have any questions about simulators, anything, you're able to text me. Write down my number. It's 702-246-2295. Any questions that you might have about turnkey simulators that we sell, how we build our simulators, the different products that we manufacture, from our handbrakes, our pedals, the different product offerings that we might have. Any questions, 702-246-2295. That directly goes to my phone, and any text that you send, I see every single one of them and I personally respond to. So if you have any questions, guys, make sure you guys send me a text again at 702-246-2295, and I'll get back to you to answer any questions that you have. All right, let's get back to that video. Okay, so like I said, I want you guys to check out these chassis just to a little bit more of a detail. The biggest way that I can show you guys the difference in how stout these chassis are is I'm gonna go walk over to it, and I'm actually gonna grab that monitor mount and I'm gonna move it like this. I'm gonna try to shake it. And what you're gonna see is whether the chassis is very stout or whether the chassis has a ton of flex. There is a little bit of difference in between the two of them when I grab that monitor mount at the highest peak and I start to move it like this kind of a manner in the way that it moves. So let me set up the camera and let's check that out. Here's the chassis. I'm gonna grab it right here on the monitor mount and I'm just gonna move it side to side. And when I'm pushing it side to side, you can actually see, sure, it does have a little bit of wobble, but it's really not that much. I mean, the platform of the chassis doesn't actually move quite at all. It's just the top of it because of how high it is. And it's really not moving. You're not gonna really get yourself in a situation where someone's coming over to this thing and they're shaking it. With that, you can actually see there's not a whole lot of flex here at all. The chassis really doesn't move. Now, let's go over there and let's do the same thing with the light turnkey so that we can actually compare and see how much they move. Okay, so now I'm next to our light turnkey chassis. Let me do the same thing. And when I do it, do you see how now the top of the profile actually shakes quite a bit more? It's not nearly as stout as the Pro chassis. Again, this isn't just to talk down the chassis. We sell these chassis, we build on these chassis, but I want you guys to actually see why there would be a benefit to getting the stiffer chassis, the larger profile over this one. It's just not as rigid. That's really the biggest difference. So if you're a bigger guy, if you're incredibly strong, you simply just by pressing on the brakes and everything, you're going to find that the thing has some flex. Now, if you're a kid, you're buying this for your child, you're a smaller person, then it's gonna serve you well. You don't need the bigger profile if you fit those categories. But again, just think back on what I was saying about what are your goals when you're actually coming out here to race on your simulator. Okay, so you can see just with the uprights, the way that they're bolted down, it's not quite as large. They don't have as big of brackets. So when you get really high up, it just has a little bit more flex to it. It has a little bit more movement. So you can see that with the light one. Now, I want to show you guys the differences between the pedal plates on the two of them and the reasons why this one we only max out at our load cell pedals, whereas on our Pro, we can put our hydraulic pedals on it. Okay, so let's check these out. So right here, this is the pedal plate. You can see the pedal plate on the light chassis just has two 40-40 bars. That's all it is. It bolts on the pedal box at the front and then it bolts, the pedal box at the back. So it's just two 40-40 bars, nothing in between there. If you throw the hydraulic pedals on this, with just those two bars, you would actually feel just a little bit of twisting at the pedal plate. Now, to be compared with the Pro chassis that has just a little bit better of a construction or a design. This one has a huge 160 millimeter bar in the back, and then the same bar that is made almost that entire chassis there, the 4080 bar, is what's in the front. Now, this one is able to withstand our hydraulic pedals. You're gonna press down on those pedals and they're not gonna have any flex at all because the pedal plate is just so much better built. I can show you guys what it looks like right here before there's anything even on them. So here's one of the Pros, and look at how stout that profile is right down the pedal box. But then we come over here and we look at this one and it's really just 40-40 bar. And this is how a lot of the lighter chassis on the market come. They come just like this, and in a sense, it's just, this chassis is meant to be a little bit cheaper, a little bit more entry level, get drivers into it. But like I said, the cost difference, when you're actually saving up the money for these things, the cost difference between that and that is really minimal. You're talking a couple $100. And in a lot of cases, we're investing a lot of money in these direct drive bases, these pedals and everything. So my opinion is your money's way better spent if you just save even a little bit longer and you get this one, you get something like this. It's gonna serve you just a little bit better. It's gonna last you longer. It's gonna be more rigid. And really in the end, you're likely to be a little bit more happier with this one because it's gonna last you longer. Your money's gonna go longer. This thing, you buy this chassis, you're not going to have to upgrade at all because it has everything that you need. Now, when it comes to chassis, hopefully that makes sense. And if you have any questions, you're more than welcome always to reach out to us, and we'll answer the questions just from the experiences that we've had as we built these and we played on them. And we've tested a lot of different chassis. I didn't start off just owning sim coaches. We started off, as sim racers ourselves. We had the different chassis that are out there on the market. It's just as we've gone through so many different options and so many different things, just even being a sim racer, me upgrading my own cockpit, I found that this is where you want to be. If you're going to, be in this for a really long time and you're going to be investing a lot of money into this thing, buy once, cry once. This is really where you're going to want to be. So put that in perspective. Think about that. What are your goals when you're actually jumping on the simulator? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish with it? And if ultimate realism is your goal, then at some point you're going to get the nice hydraulic pedals. You're going to get the awesome direct drive base. And so you need to put that into perspective when it is that you're buying a chassis. Before I close off this video, one question I get all the time when it comes to sim racing is, what should I buy first? Where should my money actually be directed? And the upgrade path should always look like this. You should always start. Again, a lot of times people start off with really cheap stuff just to see if they actually like this hobby. Totally cool. Okay, now you're at the point where you want to start upgrading. Upgrade number one, chassis. The reason why you need to start with your chassis first is if you put a beautiful pedal set or an awesome direct drive base on a really crappy chassis, the thing is going to flex, it's going to move, and then everything that you bought that nice piece of hardware for basically goes down the drain because the flex and the movement from the chassis takes away all that energy and it doesn't give everything to you as the driver. So upgrade number one first is the chassis. Get a good chassis, invest in a good chassis. Again, the chassis in almost all cases is less money anyway than pedals and direct drive bases. So invest in a nice chassis. Now, number two, what's the next upgrade that we should do after we have the chassis? Pedals. You should get pedals. Pedals are proven over and over and over again to be the piece of equipment that if you just swap to a beautiful pedal set like what we build here at Sim Coaches, you are going to find speed. You're going to be faster. The reason being, when you're able to actually feel that brake pedal and you can control how you're braking or you're applying it when you're coming into the corner, you're able to brake deeper into the corner and you're able to have more control as you're braking going into the corner than your competition that has a cheap set of pedals. I mean, you can see this over and over and over again. Just watch a lot of the different drivers that are out there on the track with you. A lot of times, if you try to match some of these drivers' braking points, you'll find that you're locking up, but why aren't they? It's simple. They're just on a beautiful set of pedals that have a different range. The sensor works different. They're able to actually modulate the pedal and feel how much pressure they're putting on it. Whereas, in a lot of cases, maybe you're driving on something that just goes off of, position or how much is pressed down. And so you're just not able to feel the same thing as those drivers. Okay. So upgrade number one, chassis. Upgrade number two, pedals. Upgrade number three, that's when we get to our direct drive bases. Now, direct drive bases, it's harder to say that you find time simply by swapping your direct drive base. Really where direct drive bases come to play and where they're really beautiful is when you want to start changing out to nice steering wheels. The heavier the steering wheel that you're attaching to the base, the more powerful base that you actually need in order to turn that wheel. Okay, some of these wheels that are out there on the market, they weigh a few pounds and they actually get pretty heavy. If you have one of these wheels and you put it on a really cheap base, then now the steering wheel base is not going to actually be able to control that steering wheel. It's not going to be able to move that steering wheel quickly left to right when you're maybe hitting apex curbing or when you're just battling somebody else out there on the track. So that's what you want to think about. That's what the upgrade path looks like. And actually, we have another video where I go a little bit more into detail about these upgrades and why you want to look at the upgrade path in the way that I just talked about. So with that, guys, I'm going to keep this video a little bit shorter. I hope you guys got some value out of this. If you did, drop me a comment down below. Hit me that like button. And yeah, if you're not subscribed already, make sure you hit subscribe. About 95% of people that watch our videos, they're not subscribed to our channel. So help us get this channel blown up, showing out some more sim racers so we can continue to build badass products down here at Sim Coaches. With that, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day and have fun out there on the track. Peace out.